Hello. Um,
Hello.
so this is very exciting. This is going to be an interview slash Q&A sort of thing with Ewen MacIntosh, the man himself, also known as.
Go on. Oh, you do it. You do it. I doing it. Go on.
You
I'll let
do
you
it.
He's also known as Keith from The Office. It's a real pleasure to have him with us today. We're very, very lucky. He's done all sorts of stuff. We're going to be talking how he got into it, his experience filming The Office, some of the other films he's done, and comedy nowadays, and what's next for him as well. And hopefully we'll try and talk a little bit about football if we have enough time.
Yeah. Try and get some football in there.
Apparently he's a Liverpool fan, so yeah. But we're really looking forward to it, and we really hope you enjoy.
Fabulous. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, or whoever's watching, we have actor, comedian, star of The Office, Ewen MacIntosh with us. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good. I'm good in my isolation booth.
Oh gosh, it's the same over here, to be honest. Just stuck in the same four
Very
walls.
strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Yeah, just got to make do, haven't you? I guess.
Yeah.
How has it been for you? Have you been keeping well in isolation or?
Yeah, It's been not too bad actually. It's obviously kind of not ideal, but you just got to make the best of it. I think that it is what it is. I mean, it's good knowing that everyone else is in the same boat, which kind of I think takes a bit of the pressure off.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah. If it was just me and everyone else was allowed out, I'd be annoyed. But when you know that everyone's the same, then it's kind of it's not too bad.
That's a good way of looking at it. I like that.
Yeah.
So, during our research over the past week or so, we discovered that you studied linguistics.
Yeah, I did. It was sort of a weird choice, really, because I was sort of vaguely interested in it. I basically just wanted to go to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
That was so all the things back there. I don't know how it works now, but you put down like 3 different choices of 3 different courses, and most people would choose like 3 different universities or whatever. But all mine were Edinburgh, and that was kind of what I ended up doing. Because I was going to do English literature, and then it was too much reading, I thought. But I basically wanted to go to Edinburgh so I could just sort of do the acting stuff and the drama and do the Edinburgh Festival and things like that. So it was more about where I went than the actual course. So I wasn't actually that. I wasn't the greatest student, to be honest, once I got to Edinburgh. So the degree took a little bit of a back seat. But it also, the other thing was in Edinburgh, again, just sort of laziness, really. Edinburgh, Scottish universities back then, it was always a 4-year course, whereas England was a 3-year course.
That's interesting.
So it was an extra year of doing nothing without having to decide, what sort of proper job to get. So it was a range of reasons for doing the degree. It was more the place and the 4 years, and just visiting Edinburgh beforehand and just loving the city, and just wanted to go there really. So yeah, it was a linguistics degree. I did complete it, but it wasn't really that much of a passion of mine, to be fair.
So I was actually wondering whether maybe you wanted to study drama but chose linguistics for a different reason, but it's interesting to know that the reason you went to Edinburgh was
I was kind of
theatre fringe sort of scene.
I was I was at sort of a private school, and we were very much discouraged from doing non-academic courses.
Yeah.
So nobody from my school went straight to drama school or anything like that. it was all kind of, well, if you want to do that, you do that sort of later on, but you go and get your degree first. So it was kind of really hammered into you that you would go and do something vaguely academic before you did anything else. So I was never really going to go to drama. I didn't really want to go to drama school anyway, because I wasn't really thinking at that point that I was going to be an actor professionally. So that wasn't even really in my thoughts at the time. So I never went to drama school at all, really.
What was it that sort of made you want to go to the Fringe? Was it just to watch theatre? Was it to get involved? Because I know you did sketches as well, didn't you? Is that right?
Yeah, well, weirdly, my careers teacher was a passionate about Edinburgh. He'd been there, and his daughter was going there, and he just said, if you like, because when I was at school, I was always in a school play, and I did a lot of drama at school as a sort of a side thing, and he said, oh, you've got to go to Edinburgh. You'd love the scene there, and I knew that I was aware of the Edinburgh Festival and comedy being a big part of it. And so as soon as I got to Edinburgh, I started getting involved in the student theatre improv comedy group. So for my first summer in Edinburgh, I didn't go anywhere. I stayed in Edinburgh for the summer. I got a job, like a little sort of temp job, and did a festival, doing an improv comedy show every night at the Bedlam Theatre, every night at midnight for 2 weeks for the festival. So it was a real kind of steep learning curve. So as soon as I got to Edinburgh, I threw myself into actually doing stuff that I wanted to do there, the performing and the comedy. So it was pretty much immediate when I got there that I started doing that rather than focusing on anything academic, really.
I mean, it's the perfect place to go if you are into that sort of comedy acting sort of theatre.
It definitely was back then. I mean, things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, back then, way before anything like, even really, we barely had the internet back then. I think I didn't get my first email address until I was like in my 4th year as a student, I don't think. So it was kind of, this is before anyone was even thinking about doing their own filming or anything like that. I don't think nobody had video cameras or anything like that back then. So, if you wanted to do comedy, then you'd go to Edinburgh, do the festival, and that's when there were producers and agents who were just all over the place, just watching shows and checking out acts. So it was a very important place to be. Back then, very important.
What was it like then? Because obviously, nowadays, from then till now, it's grown so much, hasn't it? It's got bigger and bigger every year. What was it like then, and what was it like seeing it grow?
It was even back then when I started, everyone was complaining about how much it had changed, and it's still the same now. Even it was one of those things where it was just people like complaining. So it was a lot smaller than it is now. It still had the sort of the big venues. So you still had the big, like the Gilded Blue and the Pleasance and the Assembly Rooms, where all the big acts went, the big sort of acts who had been on TV or were planning to go on TV. And then you had more of the Fringe around it with smaller venues and like university sketch groups and local theatres and schools and so on. So it was a lot different. It was a lot different. There wasn't this kind of free Fringe that there is now, which changed a lot of the Fringe during the time that I was doing it. So it was, it was very, very busy, and it was a big festival. It was one of the I think it was even then, it was like the biggest arts festival in the world, but it was nowhere near as big as it is now. I mean, I haven't been back for a few years now, but even the last time I was there, it was almost too big for the city to hold it. And I think things were getting worse and worse, especially with comedians and actors going up, and the rent you had to pay just to stay in town for the month became, I know, almost prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. So it was, it was still pretty big back then. It was the biggest thing of the year for comedy and for a lot of drama, but it wasn't as big as it became.
Because you do hear some horror stories of people coming back from the Fringe, I've had a couple of mates that have came back and said, yeah, we was in this theatre and we played to no people. We played to, the director's wife or something like that. Was there any sort of moments where...
Yeah, I've had that when I was a student. I did student plays. I mean, for 4 years, I was doing the comedy. Well, I do like the odd student play, and then also I was doing sketch groups. And I've had, I've been in plays where you've had more people on stage than the audience, and eventually that sort of, at one point, that became the kind of the barometer for whether you'd perform or not on the day. So you'd go, well, if there's more people on stage than the audience, then we'll cancel it. We won't do it today because there's no point. And sometimes when some of these things were just horrible doing it to small audiences. So if there are only 2 or 3 people there with like 10 minutes before you started, you'd almost be praying that no one else would turn up so you could pull the show.
Yeah.
Because if you had 6 in the cast and then the 7th person came in, with a minute to go, you go, oh no, we have to go and do this hour show that's just going to get no reaction in front of 7 people who just have come here by mistake. Maybe it's one of the cast parents or whatever. So I've been through all of those, horrible, horrible times where doing a show, some days, if it's a packed house, it'll go well, but if there's no one there, it'll just die on its arse. And I think that's part of the rite of passage of doing Edinburgh, is going through those shows where there's one man and his dog. So it's definitely a big part of it.
Do you think it helps as an actor, having them experiences?
Definitely. I think it's vital. I think it sets you in good stead. Anything that's an experience sets you in good stead because it means you're better at dealing it if it comes along again. So to go through those experiences, to have that feeling and then to kind of work out a way of dealing with it, mentally, physically, whatever, means the next time you'll be better prepared. So I think all of these things are at the time some of them feel horrendous, but 100%, and that's when you get like the fun stories as well, when there's no one there and whoever is there starts heckling and it just becomes, the whole thing becomes unbearable. Those are sort of what a lot of the memories are, kind of the good memories are the ones like that, because that's when you have to pull together, as a group and kind of have that us against them mentality. Definitely those are really important times, I think.
I just totally lost my train of thought. Yes, because you do hear a lot of stories, especially from actors and comedians, really, about going to either the Edinburgh Fringe or other sort of festivals like that, and they do come back with horror stories. It is quite common with a lot of actors and comedians. But you went back to the Edinburgh Fringe in 2007 as a double act with Tim Fitzhiggin. Yeah,
that weirdly. That became as a result of a drunken dare.
Tell us more.
There's a group of us who would go out in Edinburgh in like the early 2000s. Mid 2000s, we're all sort of the same age, and you guys will have no idea what this is or anything. But there are a bunch of us who, when we've grown up as kids, we'd all listen to this record or a tape called All Aboard, which was sort of a mix of comedy songs that were child-friendly and songs for kids and sort of nursery rhymes. And it had, Right Said Fred by Bernard Cribbins and Two Little Boys by Rolf Harris, who we don't talk about anymore. Yeah. A lot of people, actually, who we don't talk about anymore, but back then were fine.
Yeah, how the world has changed.
Ernie the Milkman by Benny Hill, and all these songs. Yeah. And we used to go out after shows in Edinburgh in the evening. We'd all start singing these songs from our childhood. And we had me and Tim had a drunk. We said, right. I said to Tim, someone said, oh, we should do this as a show because all of our generation know this album and love it. We should put it on as a show because it would go really well. And I drunkenly said to Tim, a friend of mine, Tim Fitzhiggin, I said, if you organise it, I'll come and do it with you. And the thing is, the sort of Tim is a weird guy, basically. I don't know if you know about him. He's done shows on Radio 4 where he's like he's ridden across the channel in a bathtub and sailed down the Thames on a paper boat and like hopped, from Land's End to John O'Groats. He does stuff. He does weird challenges, and so for him this was nothing. So the annoying thing was he put it on, but during the negotiations, which I wasn't a part of, he'd somehow agreed to put it on as a children's show rather as an ironic show for people of our age. So we ended up doing this as a children's show in the Pleasance. And the worst thing of Edinburgh for me is like getting up early. I would, because everyone at Edinburgh is up late especially when you're that age and you're kind of living the high life. It was all sort of a party town during the Fringe. I had to get up early for 4 weeks and do the show that we wanted to do, for adults, and have a bit of fun with it. And we ended up doing it as this children's show. It just ended up becoming an absolute nightmare. Doing it for 4 weeks, and most of the children didn't know what was going on. And we got a few people in, who wanted to see it, but it was too early to do it as a show for them because they were all in bed. So it became this weird experience. It was fun doing it, but it was just the wrong show at the wrong time of day. That was one of those drunken dares that kind of came back and ended up being very weird. And then for some reason, I have a very weird Wikipedia page, and over the years, just odd things have appeared on it that aren't really that big a deal in terms of what I've done. And it just depends on who's editing your Wikipedia page at whatever time.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was on it. I don't think it's on it now, but for ages and ages, the fact that I'd done that just was on the page. And so it's hung around in various crevices on the internet as being something I did, even though it wasn't really a big deal. It's kind of, it's lingered around. It's one of those things I asked about, which I can barely remember now. It was 13 years ago. And it was a couple of weeks, most of which I was hungover while I was doing the show and badly in need of sleep. That was one of those weird little mini things that happened. Again, a great fun and great stories, but at the time it was just like absolute living hell, really.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Hungover performing to kids.
Yeah, of children's songs, having to smile and be friendly and
really
interact.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Interact with children. We had to interact with children, and bring them out of the audience and give them sweets and things like this. It was just the whole thing was unbelievably awful. But I'm glad, fortunately, there's no record of it because again, nothing was filmed back then. So
Oh gosh, yeah.
No one will know. No one can see that it happened.
However, that would be fantastic footage to see there.
Yeah, but thankfully it doesn't. I'm lucky I'm of the generation where none of our mistakes were filmed. So all the embarrassing things I did, there's no record of them because we didn't have cameras back then. So nothing. Well, we had cameras, but we didn't have. You couldn't film anything. So
like personal sort of like phone cameras and stuff like that.
Not really, but no, not really. We had mobile phones, but cameras. When people forget that the first 10 years mobile phones were out, they didn't really have cameras on them, and if they did, no one used them. People still used actual cameras, they'd bought, which aren't a thing now, really. But people would never. Even after cameras came out on mobile phones, it took a good 10 years for anyone to actually properly use them because they were terrible quality. Yeah. B, there was no memory. There wasn't enough memory on those sort of
you
phones,
take one photo
to save a photo. Yeah. So there was absolutely no point using the camera for years and years. So even when mobile phones have cameras on them, nobody would, use them in shows or take pictures or film anything.
Mm-hmm.
So way up until the the mid 2000s, I think most things weren't filmed unless it was, all officially set up with a camera and the stage was mic'd and all this sort of stuff and the lighting was right. People just tended not to bother because the quality wasn't good enough. So I'm lucky that a lot of stuff I did, which nowadays would be filmed and there for everyone to see forever, is lost in the mists of time.
Oh, gosh.
Something that is still really popular now is The Office. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's amazing, really.
It's fun. I'm a huge fan. Like, I mean,
we both are really, aren't we? You know, it's something we talk about most times we see each other, really, or reference it or say a line. You know, there are some shows like that are just so iconic that you find yourself quoting it on a daily.
I think when it's people like you guys who weren't even born or were barely born when it came out.
Yeah.
It's when that happens that you think there's a massive. It really is a phenomenon, because like you can sort of understand it when people who watched it when it was out and stuff, but the fact that it's crossed generations is when it started to become, wow, this really was a kind of a unique show, really.
What is it like knowing that you're part of something so?
Oh,
did you know it was going to be something special? Or?
No, not at all. I mean, no. It was the first real thing I sort of done, really, in terms of a TV thing that was more than just the odd episode here or there. So people, no one had any idea at the time that it was going to be a big thing, or we thought it was funny and we thought we enjoyed it doing it. We had fun doing it, but you just don't know how these things are going to go down with when they're put out to the public. So especially the first series, no one had any idea at all that it was going to be successful or even really seen, to be honest.
You see that a lot nowadays with sort of older sitcoms and sort of British comedy shows, sort of having a little resurgence, coming back to sort of fit the new generation of
a little
viewers.
bit, but the weird thing with The Office is it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's almost not like it's come back, because it hasn't really been away. There were a couple of years where it faded a bit, but they were quite soon after it. Because I remember I did, a couple of years after The Office, I did Little Britain. A couple of episodes of Little Britain with Matt Lucas and David Williams. And there was a time for a couple of years where I would get much more recognised for doing Little Britain on The Office.
Oh, wow.
Say around 2006, 2007, around that time. And then, after a while, it went the other way again completely, and I never got recognised for Little Britain at all. And it was The Office was back. It was really weird. Like, Little Britain had become this kind of thing like The Office was, become really big and everyone knew it. But then for some reason, it just went. No one would mention it and no one would recognise me from it. And yet, for some reason, The Office, which was made years before Little Britain, was not only was that still there and still kind of I was getting recognised for it, it became even more so. Like it was still growing years after it had been and gone, because I guess people were passing it down to children and siblings and so on. And so it kept the life kept going. Whereas with Little Britain, which had been huge, people don't remember it because it was just for a couple of years. It was like the biggest thing. Everyone knew the catchphrases from Little Britain. The characters were everywhere. All the sort of TV shows, Comic Relief. It was like they were there doing the characters. It was like massive. And then, but for some reason, it just sort of, I guess because it was quite a fleeting thing. It wasn't really based on, like The Office is based on sort of humanity and is quite about relationships and it's got something to say, whereas Little Britain was quite just catchphrases, really.
Yeah.
So every few years you get a new sketch show which has got loads of catchphrases. Like before Little Britain, there was the Fast Show, which was a huge, and then then after that it was Catherine Tate. But those shows they're kind of in the public eye for a couple of years, but then they tend to sort of fade away a bit, really.
Yeah, because like some catchphrases do fade, but I mean, Little Britain. I mean, to say that you have worked with, Ricky Gervais, Stephen Merchant, David Williams, Matt Lucas. I mean, it's a phenomenal list of people that you can associate yourself with. And
it's funny because although both those sets, I was working with them before I was working on the things that made them go from being unknown to kind of big superstars. Because I remember when we were making Little Britain, again, no one knew about Matt, and they'd done it on the radio.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Matt had been on Shooting Stars playing George Dawes, but other than that, they weren't really known at all. No one knew who they were, Lucas and Williams. And yeah, obviously Little Britain just propelled them into that they became like massive stars. That really was a real kind of, they went from obscure to huge, quite a short space of time. Much more than The Office, which grew slowly. Little Britain just came out and went wham. It was like literally the first episode went out, and the next day, all the kids at school were saying the catchphrases in the playground. So yeah, that was a really big, really hit big.
How do you think? I know we was going to touch on this a little bit later on, but how do you think them shows would be perceived now if they came out nowadays?
I don't know. I think they do. I think they would still do well, but for some reason, there's no. I don't know if it's because of the cost of making it or whatever reasons, but there hasn't really been a sketch. No one's even tried to make a sketch show for a few years now, and I don't know why that is, because they're normally kind of really popular. Yeah. I know David Williams did try to do one, but it just didn't really work. With just him but it was just him with loads of celebrity guests playing the other parts, which again wasn't really.
Was that because I haven't really watched much from Little Britain? Is that the one in the airport?
No, that was the one they did afterwards. Come Fly With Me.
Yeah, Come Fly With Me. Come Fly With Me.
Which again wasn't as big as Little Britain. It still did okay. It still did well.
Yeah.
But it didn't have at all the impact.
It didn't sort of reach the heights that Little Britain.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Achieved.
Which I guess is a hard thing to do, though, isn't it?
Very true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So working on The Office in particular, you know, the likes of Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, like, what was it like? How was they on set? Because obviously, especially Ricky as well, because he jumped from, you know, he was an actor, he was a writer, he was directing it. I presume if he wasn't on camera, he was behind the camera.
Yeah, Stephen was mainly behind the camera, and then because Ricky was in it so much, and then obviously when Ricky wasn't in the scene, which wasn't that often, it was both of them. But it was very much a double act. They did it together. Stephen was kind of probably the more disciplined in terms of making sure everything ran to schedule and so on. Whereas I think he let Ricky off the leash a bit, because obviously Ricky had so much to do. Yeah. That when he wasn't, you know, being Brent, he needed to release energy. So he did spend a lot of time messing about and trying to put people off their lines. But again, that was all part of it. That's part of just making the set a fun place to be, because I've since learned, sets can be very boring places. There is a lot sitting around and a lot of doing nothing. So again, having somebody who's in charge and who's part of the main creative process be fun to be around was really helpful, I think, for the atmosphere. So there was Ricky did a lot of mucking about. I think he still does to an extent, but it was a lot of fun. The atmosphere was really good. Everyone was nice. There was kind of no sort of egos. So it was a relaxed place to be. It was good fun.
Yeah. Obviously, like you were saying, it's good to have someone with energy on set, because I can imagine with it being in an office environment as well, it's like extra boredom sort of setting in. But
it was strange. Yeah, it was a strange set. There wasn't really. I mean, it was an office they built really in an office shell. So it was a strange sort of space to be in. But yeah, it was weird, because once you were sat at the desk, you felt like you were really in an office, but you weren't really. So you knew it was all a construct, but it did, there were times when you were just, again, pre-kind of internet, so none of our computers were linked up to anything except we had solitaire, we played solitaire. And I think the second series, everyone got excited because one of the tech guys had put pinball on, as well as solitaire. So we could play. Those were the two games we could play. Pre sort of Facebook and YouTube. So people were just sitting around, just bored out of their brains a lot of the time. So it was important that there was people having fun as well.
Yeah, of course. And regarding sort of your experience as an actor on that set, was there sort of leeway for improvisation, sort of maybe scenes that didn't make it that you did maybe, or?
A little bit, not much. I mean, the scripts were too good really to bother with that, especially after series one. Series one, there was a little bit of, well, just do that for a while, just go off on that tangent maybe. But again, yeah, a lot of that didn't make it in because the scripts were kind of very tight, and the scripts were how they wanted them to be. So, yeah, it was pretty much as it was written on the page because it was so good. The writing was so good that you didn't really need anything else most of the time.
How did you become a part of it? You know, what was, you know, is it an audition process? How did you, you know?
No, I just fell into it luckily, really, because they just wanted people for the office workers. They just wanted people who were actors because a lot of the lines in the original scripts just said office worker. So they wanted people. They didn't want extras because they wanted people who could do lines if they had to have a line at that point. Because obviously they didn't know a lot of the camera setups when they wrote it. So they wanted to be able, if they were doing a scene and they go, oh, we're doing this scene in this part of the office, and we've got a line that says office worker, we want to be able to give it to somebody who's nearby. So they wanted all the people who were working not to be extras. They wanted them to be actual actors so they could do the lines if they were needed. So I got called in as a group of people to do that. And then I just got lucky that as I was doing those little lines here and there, they liked what I was doing, so they gave me sort of more of them to do, really.
That's interesting.
So yeah, it was again being in the right place at the right time. Because I hadn't known them before, I didn't know anything about the show before I turned up. So it was just kind of being in the right place and them liking what I was doing and that side of it, I guess.
There's a really funny outtake that I always think about when I think about The Office, and it's that what do you call that? I forgot what they're called. The
Scotch egg, yeah.
Scotch egg, yes.
Scotch egg. I didn't know what you meant then.
Scotch egg, and it's you and Martin Freeman, and you say this line, you've got the Scotch egg, and Martin just can't stop laughing.
Yeah, it was one of those weird ones where once you go, you go. It's one of those things with those sort of scenes. And I remember we filmed it, and it was we got it in one take when we first did it, and then they went off and had a little chat, and they went, we don't actually, guys, we don't think it's going to work filming it from that camera point, so we're going to flip it around. So they moved it so the camera was outside, and they were filming us, and we were inside. So we were mic'd up inside, and they said, oh, we're going to do it this way. And for some reason, from then on, we just couldn't get it, and Martin couldn't. And it's a little thing, so once you know you're going to go, you can't stop yourself. So he'd have this thing where he'd see out the corner of his eye, like my arm started to come up, and it would just set him off. So as soon as he saw it, he'd just go. And it was just, it's weird, those things. You're not doing it because you find it funny. It's weird. It's kind of a nervous energy. It's like it spills over, and it just gets stuck in your head. So it's almost, it's not that you're kind of finding it funny. It's just that you're kind of, because you know that everyone's on a schedule and everyone wants to get to lunch, and you're not deliberately trying to put anyone off. It's just, weird how that happens. Once it goes, it just goes. You can't do anything about it.
What was it like working with like Martin Freeman and Mackenzie Crook as well? Because obviously they're very talented actors.
They were great. I mean, for me, they've got on to do. I mean, for me, it was like the first Office. I guess it took us 6 weeks. It was like my personal sort of drama school, because I hadn't been to drama school, and I got 6 weeks to be around these amazing actors every day, like Ricky and Martin and Mackenzie and Lucy Davis, and just to see them in action and learn from them and see how they went about doing stuff. So that was lucky for me. It helped me a lot seeing them in action and like learning bits and pieces off them, camera techniques and all sorts. So I lucked out, really. It was like sort of a learning curve, and being paid to do it. So it was ideal, really.
Is there any other actors or directors or writers that, elsewhere in your career as well, that you sort of look at and think that was just such a joy to work with, and you've learned a lot from them?
I think wherever you go, you do. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time it's sort of you're in and out, and you don't get to see a lot of what goes on in the preparation. So as an actor, you're kind of, unless you're right in the centre of it, you're the lead. You kind of, a lot of it is spent just coming in and not being there long, and just kind of just doing your thing and getting out. I mean, I was lucky I did the thing, The Lobster, with Yorgos Lanthimos, and seeing him in action was great because he's a fantastic director, and I'd already was a big fan of his when I went there, and so to see him, he's incredible. He's so relaxed, so kind of calm and centered, and he's got all this madness all going on around him because his films are so sort of strange, and yet he's this lovely sort of calm, warm sort of little presence in the centre of it all. So it was great working with him, definitely.
I thought The Lobster was fantastic. I love
that. It's great. Yeah,
and The Favourite as well.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good.
Oh, he's got such a great track record of films, and he's got such a distinct style, I think.
Well, I mean, you should watch it if you haven't seen it. You should see. He did a film called Dogtooth, which is fantastic. Which is the reason he managed to get that cast for The Lobster was because he'd done this film called Dogtooth a couple of years before. It was nominated for Best Oscar for Foreign Film, and it's absolutely bizarre but brilliant. It's Greek, so it's in Greek, but it's worth tracking down because it's an absolute. Again, it's one of those films you don't see very often, and but yeah, it's very much what made me really keen to do it, and I think a lot of the other people as well.
Talking of other films as well, you also did The Scouting Book for Boys.
Yeah, again, that was a weird one. I was literally there for just half a day, really. It was a weird experience because the bit I was doing was all filmed on this caravan park right out, I think it was right out on the Norfolk coast. And I had to drive there the night before because I had a DJ gig and I couldn't get out of. And I had to drive, I had to finish the DJ gig, which was in, I think, somewhere like Surrey, at midnight, and drive out to the Norfolk coast. And I didn't have a rental car. There was no sat nav. There was no, this, again, before you had maps on phones. And I just had this atlas. And I just remember getting lost because it was in the middle of nowhere and having to phone the set at 5 a.m, lost. And I think I got there at about 6 a.m, and I was meant to be filming at 8. And I said, guys, what's going on? They let me just sleep in this caravan. It was all on this caravan park.
Yeah. And
they let me just sleep for about 5 hours. And they said, we'll get you at the last minute to come and do it. And it was with Thomas Turgoose.
Yeah.
It was really nice. Back when he was sort of a kid, he'd just done This Is England.
I was going to ask you about that because he's gone on to be such a big actor. And obviously, This Is England where he got to start, and he was never actually meant to be an actor. That was never in his plans. I just wanted to know what he was like,
because he'd been plucked off by Shane Meadows, and he was just sort of a kid who had problems, I think, and Shane Meadows saw something in him. He was lovely. He was really nice kid, really down to earth. No sort of going around making people cups of tea, mucking in. He was great. It was. I was literally there for just a few hours, just doing this scene where I'd catch them on the roof and chase them away.
I love that. It's brilliant. And you got that vest on, haven't you? And they're on the roof. It's
yeah. It was great. It was great. But again, I was knackered. I'd just been have this drive, and I was way out. I didn't know where I was, and but it was fun because everyone was there. Again, Thomas was really nice, and everyone was cool. I remember just going, right, well, let's just do it, and we just shot it a couple of times, and it was great. And then I was driving off again. In fact, that's how these things work, really.
Yeah.
Just there for a few hours, then off, and then you don't see it again until the film's released about a year later. So just, bizarre, really.
It's interesting, that film, because obviously, you know, there's people like Tom Harper, Jack Thorne, you know, that are sort of connected to it, and they've gone on to do, you know, some really, you know, really good work, you know.
Yeah.
Popular people in the industry now. And again, same with Thomas Turgoose, Holiday Granger, and Ray Scott, well, you know, he's brilliant. Did you, again, it's one of them questions, and you probably didn't, but did you know at the time, you know, even for that short time he was on set, you know, there's something...
I had no idea, because again, for parts like that, I hadn't even been given the script. I'd just been given the scene to audition. So I hadn't read it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't meet anyone except for the director for Tom, and then Tom and Holiday, who were in the scene. And then obviously the rest of the crew, but none of the other actors were there, of course, because they weren't in the scene. And so I didn't know anything about it. No, it was one of those weird things where I just auditioned for it and went and did it. It was one of those, weird things, really. So, like a lot of stuff. You just go and do it, come away, and you don't know much else about it.
Oh, I had a bit of a
we lost.
technical glitch there.
Yeah, sorry, it's just went off then. Sorry about that.
So we sort of touched on this before, but regarding shows, like, so obviously, you had you starred in Miranda as well, with Miranda Hart. Regarding shows like The Office and Little Britain especially, obviously we talked about before how they would be perceived now, but is there room in the sort of comedy sitcom world, in Britain especially, for shows like that now, or has comedy moved in a different direction, would you say?
I think there is, but it's one of those things where it's out of the hands of the people who make the shows, because the people who make the decisions have their own ideas, and things coming out in and out of fashion all the time. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be, you know, people seem to be obsessed with stuff like panel shows because they're a lot cheaper to make. That's the thing. Budgets are being stripped away. You know, there's a lot less money these days. Advertising is, there was a couple of years ago where a lot of advertisers seemed to disappear because of the financial crisis. And again, now with what's happening now, who knows? It could even get worse. Yeah. So the problem is, if you're making TV now, especially stuff like, especially comedy, where there isn't like the audience necessarily that there is for big dramas, you've got to be making cheap stuff, and panel shows are really cheap to make. And sitcoms and sketch shows are high budget.
Yeah.
Is there anything recently that you've watched comedy-wise that you've thought that's really brilliant?
You put me on the spot here. Not in the last 2 or 3 years. Nothing kind of. There probably is, and I've just forgotten.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? There's so, you know, it's. I think The Office and Little Britain, you know, them shows, you didn't have as much range to watch. When nowadays you've got Netflix, you've got all, you know, internet and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
A lot more.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix has added a totally different sort of perspective on comedy and stuff, and the amount of shows that are on there now are just unbelievable.
You see a lot of. I think the Americans are kind of better at doing the low budget shows than we are. So you see quite a lot of like decent American shows and stuff that are low budget that just seem to. I mean, we have some good. I mean, I think a lot of some of the stuff like the MASH report.
Yeah,
I think some of those are quite good.
Yeah.
But there's a bit sort of hit and miss. That's the only issue, really. But there are good things. There was a good thing on Netflix last year called, I think You Should Leave, with Tim Robinson. That was
I've not seen
that was really good. That's like a little sketch show. Again, different things every week. So yeah, there's stuff around. There's just so much of it. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much of it.
Have you had a chance to watch the American version of The Office?
I didn't bother really. Just one of those things where I never got around to it, and then by the time I thought I might do, there were just so many episodes that it was sort of a bit daunting.
Mm.
So yeah, I've never really. I like Steve Carell a lot, but I just never got around to watching it. Weirdly,
it is in a way. I mean, obviously, it's American humour, so it is a bit different perceiving it as a Brit. Because obviously, with friends and sort of colleagues, we discuss, oh, you've seen the UK version, have you seen the American version? But it's interesting asking, obviously, you who has actually worked on the UK office, if you've sort of gone and seen any of the US version. But like you said, it is quite a lengthy series.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a total chalk and cheese compared to sort of Ricky and Stephen, who are known for doing sort of 2 series and a special.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Was there ever any talk of the 3rd series of The Office after the special, or was that sort of
only? I think from the BBC really, who wanted them to do it, but they said they wouldn't do it. They were never going to do it. I think the BBC, pretty much gave them an open checkbook to come back, but they wanted to do other stuff, and they ended up going back and doing extras, which was pretty good. Pretty good next show, I think, for that.
It's interesting to know, obviously, from The Office, from that point onwards, they both sort of started this whole 2 series and a special system. And I mean, it seems to have worked.
Yeah, I think at that point they were keen on that. That was how they wanted to play it, really.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to watch Afterlife? Because obviously they've done 2 series, but now they're planning on doing a 3rd series, which I don't think they've done that before, really, have they?
Yeah, well, again, Afterlife is just Ricky, really. So Stephen's not not involved with it. So I think it's less of a traditional sitcom anyway. Yeah. So it's probably got more legs in terms of where the characters can go. Whereas I think they felt with a sitcom with the characters and it's all very much in one place and all those people together, there's only so much you can do. Whereas obviously shows that are broader in terms of their scale and their scope, you've got more you can do with them, I guess.
I always wonder where the characters would be, sort of, so many years on. Where do you think Keith would be?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of it's one of those things people ask me, and I just can't even think about it.
That's to say, is it? Yeah.
I just don't know if it's really something for me, it's just such a sort of, I know it's well-intentioned, but I don't really even know what the question means because he was just, he was just there for that, to exist within that environment and in that show. And I think trying to put something on to project a life onto him that wasn't there. People have tried to do it before. I've had a lot of people send me ideas and so on of doing shows of where Keith is now and that sort of thing. But it's never really, what do people like that do? It's not going to be very exciting. He's a bloke who works in Slough, He's not going to have had sort of some amazing life where he's, gone and scored the winning goal in the World Cup and then gone and, solved the cure for the common cold. I mean, the guy is just going to be knocking about in Berkshire, just
in his Ali G costume,
not doing very much. it's not going to be that interesting. I don't think what Keith is actually now. He existed within. He was funny in that context at that time, but I don't think it would be that funny to see him in some other sort of situation. It'd probably just be quite depressing.
Well, you mentioned the World Cup. We know you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on this season at the moment and everything that's happening?
It's going to get juicy now.
I think it's an interesting one. I mean, I think it should come back behind closed doors to finish the season under the strict conditions that they've been doing in Germany.
Yeah, I agree.
And then once the season's finished, then you wait and see. I think obviously it's not ideal. I don't think no one ever is even saying it should be a long-term plan to have to play football behind closed doors. I don't think it can be. But because you want to get the season finished off, I think it's a short-term kind of best case scenario. Still, it's not perfect, but it's the best case scenario of the options that are open. No one has to be. People are going, well, it won't be as exciting, and it won't be the same. It's like, well, we know that. No one's saying this is the future of football. We're just trying to get the season finished so that if football does start again properly, everyone starts from a fair position.
Exactly.
People who should be promoted are promoted. People who should be relegated are relegated. People who should be in Europe are in Europe in the right competition. It's the best case scenario to get that sorted, so that if football does start again properly, which obviously everyone hopes it will, then we can start it again properly. With everyone in the right competition and everyone in the right league.
Precisely.
It's 4 weeks of not ideal, probably not massively exciting football matches, but at least it's a level playing field. At least everyone's playing under the same conditions against each other and against who they should be playing. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's what should happen, and whether it does or not, we'll have to wait and see. I know a lot of players now are saying they don't want to go back, but
yeah,
I think everyone's going to have to go back at some point.
That's the thing. I love the like the Villa fans or Norwich fans who are saying no, we should just scrap it. Well, you would say that, wouldn't you? You're 20th place. It's easier said than done. It must be frustrating. I mean, I'm a Middlesbrough fan, so we're on the brink of relegation in the Championship. So I've got my fingers crossed it's just all scrapped. But if you're a Liverpool fan, it must be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a United fan, so it's sort of like in the sort of middle.
I don't see how it can be scrapped. That's the thing. I don't see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think if it could be, they would, but I don't think it can. Especially financially.
Exactly.
I think you need to get some money to the clubs, and if that is TV money, then at least that's TV money. If all these clubs are having to pay back money to the TV companies for the rights that they haven't got, it's even worse, in even worse trouble. At least they need to try and find a way of monetizing the remaining games, so that the clubs can get money and the people can get paid and sponsors can keep paying up rather than pulling out of the whole situation. So I think they have to get it done somehow. We'll just have to see. I mean, I watched the German games at the weekend, a couple of them. Apparently in Germany, when they had the option to press a button and get crowd noise, which I think would help. Which I would have loved that.
Just having that sort of background.
Watching it like we did, it was just like watching a training session.
Yeah, it's so strange. I watched. It was Dortmund and
Schalke. Yeah.
It felt so slow at the start. Like you said, it just felt like a training match. I think once the goal went in, it sort of speeded it up a little bit. But the first 15 minutes in particular were just so slow. I'd
much rather have fake crowd noise pumped in. Much rather have it. just because it make it just feel more like a match. Anything that makes it feel more like a match, I'm all for.
Yeah.
It's so weird hearing that like echo.
Yeah, hearing the echo and hearing people shouting, and it's like, pump some noise in, at least make us feel like it's coming back to normal, even if it isn't. So I'm hoping they might do that, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see that, obviously England are sort of in the sort of weird stage of deciding what football's doing. Germany have already started playing, but the French league have said, right, your positions now are your ending positions, and there are teams that have been relegated now who are complaining, and all Europe, the Europa League and Champions League spots are sort of being fought over. It's interesting.
Well, that's the thing. At least if you finish it, you finish it. If you don't finish it, and clubs are going to start suing the league,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You don't want that. No one wants that. So another reason for just getting it done.
So I also think if they did, the English league sort of came back and played behind closed doors and televised it, it'd be sort of a relief for a lot of British people and people around the world to have something they can sort of watch and relate to. And
absolutely, everyone get behind it. It would be a big kind of positive for people. It would be a big part of the process of trying to get things back to normal.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that I was absolutely gutted about with all this. Exactly. I was like, there's no football. Oh, yeah. What am I going to watch?
I don't know about you guys, but, just sitting there on Saturday, I know it's the German league, it wasn't the Premier League, it wasn't the Championship, but just sitting down and just watching some football, it felt a lot better,
Yeah, it is. And I'd say in the whole lockdown, it's the only real thing I've missed, really.
Yeah.
Is live sport, especially football. But I'd probably watch live cricket, I would watch cricket anyway, but, I'd probably watch live hockey if it was on.
Yeah. Just you find any live sport.
Yeah. Just something where people are playing each other at sport, just be something to watch.
Exactly.
I guess,
hopefully.
Go on.
I was just going to say, hopefully it'll be back soon because we're all missing a bit of football in our lives.
Yeah.
British
let's see what happens. Yeah. Hopefully mid-June, we'll see.
Yeah, and that's
I still hope that Liverpool don't win though, but it's inevitable.
I think you're struggling with that.
Yeah. To be fair, this is an unpopular opinion, but as a United fan, I'd rather Liverpool win the league than City.
Yeah, that is unusual, actually.
A lot of people, even
you're the only United fan I know. You're the only United fan I know who's saying that. Most of them would much rather City.
It was so funny. We go to a pub just down the road from us to watch the football quite a lot, and we were watching Champions League final, wasn't it? And it was
it was the semi-final. It's the Liverpool Barca final.
Yeah, and it was great. It was just surrounded by Liverpool fans, and obviously I know Owen's a die-hard United fan.
Yeah.
Just watching you, jump up and celebrate at Liverpool.
I celebrated when Liverpool qualified.
I tell you what, if I just opened my mouth right now and told everybody, there'd be a war on.
I tell you what, it was payback because Barca knocked us out.
That's true, yeah.
But it was British. It was British pride, not Mancunian pride. Let's go with that.
I don't think that was just...
You lost that pub with your head down in shame, to be honest with you, mate.
I was like, oh.
Whatever you say.
Yeah, I don't think there's no such thing. All the commentators and the TV channel pretend there's British pride in Europe, but there isn't.
Yeah.
They always pretend that everyone will be backing the British teams, but it's just not true.
No.
Liverpool will back anyone against Man U, and Man U will back anyone against Liverpool. It's just that's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
This whole let's get behind the British team. Just they pretend. I don't know why they pretend it's a thing when it isn't.
If Celtic got to the semis, like everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, Celtic, they're British." I'm like, you don't support them.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing with international, isn't it? If say you're supporting England and you're in Scotland, you know what I mean? Scottish are sort of going, yeah, come on, Cameroon.
Well, it's like, I've got a lot of Welsh friends, and they are who are Liverpool fans, They're Welsh fans, they're Liverpool fans. Come the Wales-England rugby, they couldn't be slagging England off anymore if you tried. The sort of stuff they say about England during the rugby. It's like, you support an English team.
Exactly, because I've got a lot of
you support an English
Welsh
football
friends.
team. What's your problem? Weird.
say the same thing. A lot of them, 'cause we go to North Wales, we go to Anglesey every year. Obviously, they're all Liverpool supporters. It's insane. But
Yeah.
and I'm like, but you've got like Swansea and Cardiff. Like you've
Yeah,
got
I know. They're all Welsh
Welsh
teams they can
teams.
support, yeah.
But they choose Liverpool. But like you said, when it comes to rugby,
When it comes to rugby, it's like the anti-English stuff
know.
they come out with is just obscene. So there you go.
it's bizarre. Our interview / Q&A / general chit chat with Ewen MacIntosh.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? I really, really enjoyed that. Like we said, we were so excited to have him on. Feel very, very lucky, you know. It might not be for everyone, but for me and Owen, The Office is, you know, something that we both really love. It, you know, there's a few shows and a few comedians that we always quote and talk about, and Office is one of them.
Definitely
so
one of them.
To have Keith from The Office on was a bit mad, and just to talk about everything else as well. I think
very interesting. Very, you know, stories that we've maybe not heard before, or just interesting. Interesting,
and especially to talk about football, because we love a good chat about the footy. So
even though he supports Liverpool,
we'll let him off. So yeah, that was our interview with Ewen MacIntosh. We really hope to enjoy it, and we shall see you soon.
Indeed. Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.